There is a stage that follows the collapse of trust that is rarely spoken about. Life continues. The structures remain. The routines remain. The small expectations of daily participation do not pause to accommodate the internal shift that has begun. Awareness arrives, but the world does not reorganize around it overnight. You are still asked to answer messages, make decisions, show up in conversations, move through systems that now feel different than they did before. This is where many people begin to feel the fracture. I have watched it happen in real time. Strong men who have carried certainty for decades, finding themselves unable to speak, their voices breaking under the weight of what they now understand. Not performative emotion, not dramatics. A nervous system trying to reconcile information that rearranges the story it relied on to feel stable. I have seen women move through anger that is not rage at its core, but grief without a place to land. Anger becomes the only language available when betrayal feels too large to hold quietly. The question that follows is almost always the same. How do I live now? How do I wake up tomorrow and move through a world that feels altered? How do I continue functioning when something fundamental inside my perception has shifted? These questions rarely get spoken publicly. People carry them privately because they believe the reaction itself means something is wrong with them. They expect clarity to produce empowerment. Instead, clarity often produces disorientation first. Some of what is surfacing now I encountered years ago. In 2015, naming these patterns often resulted in dismissal. The cost of early perception is isolation. Not because certainty exists, but because language does not yet exist around what is being sensed. So when I see people arriving here now, I do not feel vindication. I feel recognition and tenderness. Because the stage they are entering is heavy in ways that are difficult to explain until you are inside it. Trust does not collapse only intellectually. It collapses somatically. It changes how conversations feel, how information is received, how decisions are made, how safety is perceived. It introduces a quiet background processing that does not fully turn off. This creates a strange double existence. One part of the psyche is adapting to what it has seen, questioning, grieving, recalibrating. Another part must continue participating in ordinary life, paying bills, caring for family, maintaining relationships with people who may not share the same perception or who may not want to engage it at all. Awareness and participation occupying the same body. That tension produces exhaustion that often has no obvious explanation. A distance from conversations that once felt simple. A sense of moving through familiar environments with slightly altered depth perception, as if something subtle but important has shifted out of alignment. People wonder if they are breaking. Most are not, but they are changing. The psyche does not repair trust by forcing certainty back into place. It begins to learn a different orientation to reality, one that relies less on inherited narratives and more on direct perception. This is slower, less comfortable, more ambiguous, but it is also more stable over time than certainty that depends on unexamined assumptions. You do not return to innocence. You develop discernment. Discernment is quiet work. It looks like slower conclusions, more questions, a tolerance for not knowing that initially feels like vulnerability, but gradually becomes steadiness. It means learning how to live without constant resolution while still remaining engaged with life. Some of us have lived in this terrain longer, not ahead, just longer inside the same process. That duration allows something important to be said gently. The shock softens. Not because everything resolves, but because the nervous system cannot sustain acute rupture indefinitely. Function returns in small increments. Meaning reforms, though it often looks different than it did before. Certainty is replaced by orientation, a quieter sense of how to move even when answers remain incomplete. You do not go back to who you were, but you do not disappear either. Many people fear that awareness will consume their capacity to live normally, that the fracture is permanent. What tends to happen instead is integration. The awareness becomes one layer of perception rather than the only layer. Life regains texture. Ordinary moments return without requiring ignorance. This is not denial. It is adaptation. History moves through periods where large numbers of people encounter destabilizing information or shifts in collective understanding. The psychological stage that follows is rarely dramatic externally, but deeply significant internally. It is the period where individuals renegotiate their relationship to trust itself. That renegotiation is not failure. It is maturation. If you are in this stage, the most important movement is often the smallest one. Continuing to live without pretending nothing has changed. Brushing your teeth. Making dinner. Laughing when something is funny. Feeling grief when it arises. Allowing complexity rather than demanding immediate clarity. You are learning how to stand without the story that once held you upright. That learning is slow because it is real. Some days will feel heavier than others. Some information will reopen the fracture. Some conversations will deepen the isolation. None of that means you are moving backward. It means the psyche is metabolizing something that cannot be rushed. You are not weak for feeling the weight of what you see. You are not alone in wondering how to continue. You are not expected to resolve the world before you can live inside it. The question after trust collapses is not what is true. It is how to live while truth is unsettled. And that question is survivable. You do not go back, but you do go on.